Welcome to another round of Month in Data, in which we look at the numbers behind some of this month's trending stories. A group of independent publishers submitted an antitrust complaint to the European Commission, accusing Google of using content on AI overviews without an opt-out option. The group claimed that their traffic, readership, and earnings will suffer irreparable harm if the content continues to be used by the feature. It is difficult for publishers to fully prevent AI providers from scraping their work, as it also risks excluding them from the standard search results. Artificial intelligence, including large language models, already have a huge impact on online search and website traffic. In fact, chatbots like Gemini, ChatGPT, and other AI agents have much lower traffic referral rates than Google's main search engine. Global SEO professionals have identified generative AI as a primary factor contributing to a shift in search engine optimization and is the most significant disruptor in the industry's SEO performance. Other areas of AI, such as agentic AI, will also shape this area, with many executives already believing that AI agents will be used 15% more than websites or apps in the next 5 years. July 9th marked the end of the 90-day pause on the so-called Liberation Day tariff announcements, with the US government choosing to escalate its tariff campaign further throughout July. Despite the US recording a $7.35 billion trade surplus with Brazil, one of the more favorable figures among individual countries, Donald Trump announced that starting August 1st, Brazil would face a sweeping 50% levy on all exports. Rather than being an effort to counteract a US trade deficit, the tariffs on Brazil were prompted by US objections to criminal charges against former President Jair Bolsonaro. But what does this mean for President Lula and the Brazilian economy? President Lula has framed the tariffs as foreign meddling, leading to a slight uptick in the Brazilian leader's popularity as he sought to champion national sovereignty. However, with Brazilian exports to the US exceeding $40 billion in 2024, sectors supplying airplanes, coffee, and even fruit juice could soon face steep headwinds. Brazil is not the only region in the firing line, with both the European Union and Mexico seeing a 30% tariff placed upon them. The US government has long cited the growing trade deficit with the EU as a factor in it awarding the bloc with such levies, a deficit that reached $236 billion in 2024. The EU responded by drafting $84 billion in retaliatory duties while it continues trade deal negotiations up to the August 1st deadline. In the case of Mexico, President Trump once again cited trade imbalances, recording one of the biggest country deficits in 2024, while Mexico's failure to curb fentanyl trafficking was also highlighted as a key reason for the tariff hike. Tariff changes underscore how trade policy is shaped not just by economics, but by political priorities and social pressures, and are a reminder that global commerce is not driven by markets alone. While many are feeling like they need a break from tariffs, students in many countries are about to get a break from school, as summer holidays begin in many regions across the Northern Hemisphere. While pupils in Italy enjoy a total of 95 days of summer holidays, a record in Europe, among employees the record is held by the Spaniards and Maltese, who benefit from 44 days per year of national and personal holidays combined. Going on a vacation is a luxury not everyone can afford, but the many people who do go on a holiday in the summer are enough to make the tourism sector a booming industry. And the sector is a vital driver of economic prosperity, making up for over 10% of the global GDP. From a total of over 1.4 billion international tourist arrivals worldwide, tens of millions travel through the biggest airports in the world, such as Atlanta in the US, Dubai, Tokyo, and London. And finally, do you enjoy a matcha latte or two to get through the day? Matcha has long had a strong following, but now a social media-driven surge in popularity could be causing a global shortage. Matcha, or tencha, has a traditional status in Japan's tea ceremonies, and it can also be used in cuisine and several delicacies. However, its worldwide success is primarily due to matcha being used in drinks, ranking far behind the world's biggest tea producers, China, India, and Kenya. Japan may not produce much tea, but the country exports much of its production. In 2023, Japan was the second biggest green tea exporter worldwide, with the United States, France, and Canada importing the most green tea. Matcha could be reaching the point where demand outstrips supply. A quick fix solution isn't readily available, with plants taking around 5 years before they are ready to harvest. In parallel, Japan registered a record high number of nearly 37 million tourists in 2024, which also disrupted the local market of matcha in some cities. One example was the Japanese town of Uji, Japan's matcha capital, where tourists were left scrambling for tins of the product. Meanwhile, local citizens fear that the tradition may be getting diluted in a global frenzy. That's it for this month. To find out more about these stories and countless others, head on over to Statista.com and join us next time for another round of Month in Data.